Hi, this is me. My name is Michelle. I'm sorry, I've tried to do this for like last hour, and I'm kind of at that point where I really don't want to try and do this anymore. But I'm at an awkward point in my life where I feel like I'm pivoting between making progress and stepping back, and making advances and stepping back. And I don't want to do that with my life anymore because I don't want to continue on in my 20s and look back and wish I had done something more. And this is actually something I've wanted to do for a really long time because I feel like the internet's a really powerful tool and we all have such interesting things about our lives. And I feel like I have something kind of extra interesting about my life. And I've tried doing something with it for a really long time. For years now, actually. I've been trying to write. I've done these weird videos. And I've never done anything with it because I get really embarrassed really easily. And I'm really making myself vulnerable, and I don't do well being vulnerable. But I have to be if I want to progress in my life, because I think this is actually a really big key for me to grow up. Because I'm a 24-year-old with the mentality of not a 24-year-old, I guess. It's hard for me to explain, but I'm trying really hard to make positive changes in my life, and I think this is the big step for me to do that. And I'm in an awkward part of my basement because everybody's sleeping, and I don't want to be awkwardly waking people up with me talking to myself. Sorry, I'm a very awkward human being, and this is really strange for me, but I feel like if I don't share what I have in my life, then I'm wasting it. I'm wasting an opportunity to make a difference in someone else's life. And it's not me being selfish. It's not me wanting attention. It's really just this part of me that I feel like I was put here, and I feel like I was meant to go through these situations for a reason. I think this is the reason, is me being able to, in one way or another, reach out and connect with somebody who's maybe younger than I am and just going through a situation like I am, or who has been but doesn't know how to get out of it. Like, I'm almost 24 years old, and I am just now getting to a point where I'm trying really hard to figure things out, and I felt like I was making progress. But like I said, I'm at that awkward pivot point where I don't know where the hell I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I work 2 jobs, and I don't know why, besides trying to pay off bills. And I don't want to live my life this way anymore. And I don't want someone else to go through the same mistakes that I went through. Except it's kind of hard because I really do believe we go through these mistakes for a reason. But there are things that I've done in my life that I don't think other people need to go through. I'm a very big believer that things do happen for a reason. But we obviously are all here for different reasons. And we all have these things about us that we should be able to communicate. And we should be able to help each other, and I don't think we help each other enough. And this is me being really vulnerable and scared and trying to do something with this and hoping for the best. But the thing about putting your life out there is trying to figure out where to start, because my life story is interesting and you want to make a good build-up. And I've done this so many times, I actually kind of hate talking about it to myself because I always start at the same textbook way. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is I always start in the same way and I don't know how to go on from there, because I always start in the beginning. Well, my childhood was great, yada, 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 but I actually blah, blah, blah. Like, I do that. And I don't think that's the way I should be doing it. So my life right now, currently, what I do, I work 2 jobs. I don't know what I'm doing. I have family. That's kind of the best way for me to put it. I have family that I'm very close to, but some of that family that I'm really close to isn't actually blood family. It's family that I've created around me, because my family is not what I would like it to be, simply because of the different paths that we have all chosen in our lives. I have a lot of family 4,000 miles away in Ireland, or however actually many miles that is, that I don't get to see every single day, and they are a huge part of my life that I wish I could communicate with more often, and I wish I could be around more often, but I can't, because of a decision my family made that I wasn't able to make a say in. Because when I was born, my mom was in a relationship with a man that they just didn't get along. And my family moved to America from Ireland and made the decision that they were going to create this bubble for me. See, I grew up in a very Christian home, very sheltered, innocent, protected life. And if you've ever seen the movie Bubble Boy, then that's kind of what it's like. My family put me in this bubble and fed me these scenarios and protected me. Overly protected me to the point where I am not prepared for anything that I go through in my life because I don't know how to handle it. And the biggest fact that I've kind of taken from this is that I grew up in a Christian home. That is the basis of this. And my family told me the biggest lie in my life. And that's what's hard to wrap your head around. My family, my mom made her decisions, and my grandmother made decisions for me and for my mom, which resulted in me believing that my grandmother was my mom, that my mom was my sister, that my uncles were my brothers, that my brothers were my nephews, that my cousins were my nieces, that my dad died before I was born. All of it. All of that entire mess is what I grew up believing until I was 13 years old, because my family made that choice for me. And I had to go through the repercussions of their actions, which is a really hard way to grow up. I mean, I wasn't in an abusive family. I wasn't treated poorly by my family. I was a product of their... How do you explain that? That's the thing now, is like their situations, I am the product of their consequences, if that makes any sense. Because of their choices, I had to grow up in a certain way, and I had to go through this really rough, depression-filled, anger-filled, self-inflicted, wound-filled, self-medicating-filled life. And sure, I didn't have to go through those things, but I did, because of the situations that my family went through and the choices they made. And one of the biggest things now that I go through this is I have friends who are pregnant and who are going through situations with their spouse, and they don't want them around for the kid. And one of the biggest things now for me is, like, you cannot make that choice for your baby unless that person is actually very toxic. Just because you don't get along with someone doesn't mean that you should make that choice for someone else. I don't know. That's a whole nother project or a whole nother situation in itself. But that's kind of where I'm at in wanting to share my life, because I think this is something that a lot of people really do go through but don't know how to talk about it, or don't want to talk about it, don't want to address that part of their life, which I can understand. I didn't want to address it for a really long time. From 13 until 17 were the most awkward, confusing, painful years of my life. And from 17 until right now is when I've really, really been trying to understand forgiveness and actually use it in my everyday life and forgive a lot of people for a lot of things and forgive myself. That's the thing I have the hardest time with, is forgiving myself. So maybe in a weird way, I'm sorry this video is so long already, but maybe in a weird way, this is me forgiving myself and being able to be kind of like that point in someone else's life of an example, I guess. Like, I'm here, I've gone through it. This is physical evidence that things have to go certain ways sometimes, but it's your actions that decipher what's going to happen. Even though your family may have made a situation happen for you, it's your actions now that decipher how you're going to grow up and live your life. And this is where I'm at, standing awkwardly in my basement, not knowing what I just said the last 9 minutes of this video. But yeah, so this is where I am, trying to do something with my life and hoping for the best and not knowing how it's gonna go. So I guess we'll see what happens next.